So we have our 4 methods of factoring now. First method that we always check for is good, GCF. Second method is difference of 2 squares. Third is diamond method. When do we use diamond method? When there's 3 terms. And is x squared by itself or does it have a number? By itself. What if x squared has a number on it? Then we use our 4th method, which is bottoms up. Good. Okay. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at problems when after we factor once using one of our methods, we have to use another method. So that's called factoring completely. What your instructions are going to be anytime we're factoring is to factor something completely, which means it needs to be factored all the way. So we're going to be looking at examples where after we factor once, it's not factored all the way. Okay, so let's all write down example 1 first. Alright, so our first example, we have 2y squared minus 8. What is the first thing that we always look for? GCF. Look at this problem. Is there a GCF? Yes. What is it? Good, 2. So let's factor out 2. If I factor out 2, what's left inside? Y squared minus 4. Now let's see if you can figure it out. What does this one look like? Very nice. This is a difference of 2 squares. Look, y squared is a perfect square, and 4 is a perfect square, and they're being subtracted. So we're going to apply our difference of 2 squares rule. Okay, what happens to that 2 on the outside? It stays there. So we just bring it straight down. I'm going to apply my rule for difference of 2 squares. So 1 is plus, 1 parentheses has minus. And what goes in the first 2 spots?
Y.
Y. Square root of y squared is y. What goes in the second 2 spots?
2.
Good, 2. How'd you get that?
Because we factored.
Square root of 4 is 2. Good. Let's look. Does this look factored all the way?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. We can't do anything else to it. So we are done.
That's your answer?
That's your answer. So we had to use 2 methods here, right? In the first step, we use GCF. So we use GCF first. And then we use difference of 2 squares second. So I'm just going to write those so that we know what we use. So diff of 2 squares. Okay, so we use difference of 2 squares second. Example 2. X squared, or 2x squared, plus 8x minus 10. You cannot use diamond if there's a number in front of x squared.
2.
Well, that's why we pulled out the GCF, because now x squared is by itself, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so what we did here, just to recap, we took out a GCF of 2. After we divide every term by 2, we get an x squared plus 4x minus 5. We use diamond method to factor out the trinomial. Okay, we used diamond method to factor out the trinomial. Remember, the GCF comes down. And we factor this trinomial to x minus 1 times x plus 5. How could I check this? What could I do to check? We could FOIL these 2, right? And then what would we have to do? Distribute the 2. Could we distribute the 2 first and then FOIL? Yeah. Okay. But we can check our answers still. Example 3. X squared times y plus 4xy plus 4y. In this example, what is the first thing I always look for when factoring? GCF. Is there GCF in this one? There is. What is it? Ooh, somebody said 4. Let's look at this. Does this first term have a 4 in it? No. What about x? Could x be a GCF? No. How come? There's not an x in here. So what would our GCF be? Y. They all have at least one y, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's factor out a y. If I factor out y, what's left inside? X squared
8.
plus 4x plus 4. So that was our first step. Can I factor this trinomial? Some people, I hear some yeses, I hear some no's. What do you think? Yes, I can. What method can I use? Diamond method. How did you know it was diamond method? Because there's 3 terms, right? Okay, so let's use diamond. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to what?
4.
Positive 4. And add up to? Positive 4. This should be easy. What are they? 2 and 2. Okay, so how would this factor? What happens to the y? Comes down. And this factors to what? X plus 2 times x plus 2. Now, this is very similar to that one in the homework that we were looking at. I have x plus 2 times x plus 2. So when I multiply something by itself, what happens there? For example, if I have x squared, or x times x, that's the same as what? X squared, right? So does that apply to this here too? Yeah, so what would my final answer be? Y times x plus 2 squared. Okay, so what was the first step that I did here? Good, GCF. So we found a GCF first. Our GCF was y. We pulled it out and we were left with x squared plus 4x plus 4. And what method did I use after that? Good, diamond. So in my second step, I used diamond method. Yeah, that's all. Okay, this is called, does anybody remember what the purple one was called? Perfect square trinomial. Okay, so that's just a special case. So I'm going to write it just so that we know what it's called. I call them perf square tri. Okay, so it's just a special case. Alright, but you can still use diamond to factor them. Okay?
Can you just leave it expanded, or do you have to?
Well, like I said, on the test, if you were to leave it expanded, I wouldn't mark it wrong. But if it was a multiple choice question, it might have this one. They wouldn't have both.
Oh, they wouldn't?
No, they wouldn't have both because it's the same answer. But they might have the squared one instead of the expanded one. So I just want you to be able to know that they're the same. Okay? It's a good question. Okay. 3x squared plus 18x minus 21. Alright, so Bobby, what was my GCF here? Good, GCF was 3. How many of you got GCF as 3? Good, so if I factor out a 3, what is left inside? X squared plus 6x minus 7. Good. Okay, so we pulled out a GCF. That was our first step. Okay, what is my second step? So we pulled out a GCF of 3, and this is what we have. What was my next step? Factor, good. Factor using diamond. So we're going to do diamond. So that means I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to what? Negative 7 and add up to? Positive 6. Diego, what are they? Negative 7 and 1. Okay, let's check it. Negative 7 times 1 gives me negative 7. Negative 7 plus 1. Negative 6. We want to add it to positive 6. So what should change here? Positive 7, negative 1. So that's why we always need to make sure we double check, okay? So then how does this guy factor? What happens to the GCF?
Bring the 3 down.
Brings it down. And this factors to what?
X plus
X plus 7 times
X minus
X
1.
minus 1. Order does not matter. So if you had X minus 1 first and X plus 7 second, it's the same. Am I done?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you did. Use correct variable B.
Okay, last example. 64 minus 4x squared. Factor it completely, please. Okay, so we first found a GCF of 4,
Okay.
factored it out, so then what?
I think it's the difference of 2 squares.
It is a difference of 2 squares. Everybody give him a round of applause. Okay, what happens to the GCF?
Put the first two, and then the minus and the one. Then you put the first one you put, and the first and second you put 4.
Uh-huh.
And then you put X.
Very nice. Is this finished? Yes, you got it correct. Give yourselves a round of applause. Very good. Okay. Hold on. So when we're factoring, that's why I have the list up here and that's why I have them numbered. We always start at 1 and we work our way down. Now we're going to see problems where after we factor once, we might have to do it again. Okay, so make sure that you are always double checking that you factored completely and still check your answers. Remember on the test, if you don't have a check, I'm not even going to grade it. Okay.